Welcome, everyone, to the Oneness of Black podcast. Today, I am sitting here with Dr. Darrell Jordan. Hey, Dr. Darrell.
Hey.
It's a pleasure sitting with you today. Dr. Darrell is a native from New Orleans. And several years ago, actually, the Lord spoke to him about moving his family here to Atlanta, Georgia. And he started ministry. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the ministry work and his passion for the Lord and the way in which he's doing ministry now. And so today we're going to look at his journey from childhood, his Black cultural experiences. He's a charismatic person. He leads that way. Also, he is a visionary. He likes teaching and preaching the word of the Lord. He is actually he's a chaplain too, right, Dr.
Yes.
Darrell? So he's a chaplain and he's a motivational speaker and a certified life coach. And so today we're going to have a conversation with Dr. Darrell because, as you know, this is a podcast where we have meaningful conversations around our Black cultures, the diverse Black cultures. And we're focusing more so on making sure we're unified, creating that moment for healing, awareness of our cultural differences, and opportunities for us to think about how can we heal and unify as a Black culture. So welcome, Dr. Darrell.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So we actually met about 10 years ago.
Yes.
We were neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we were neighbors. What was that like for you, having us as neighbors?
That was an experience. That was an amazing experience. An experience I'm very grateful for. An experience where I was blessed with a family that I had never had, and I say that with all sincerity. Literally bring tears to my eyes when I think about it, because it was life changing. And it happened in such a way where it could not be denied, as far as being you all were divinely placed in my life.
Wow.
And I was grateful for that, and it was a simple move of God that I had seen your husband and I working together on a project, and we went and bought something from the store, and when we picked this thing up from the store, brought it to the house, the code was my address.
Wow.
Number.
Mm-hmm.
And your husband had to install this thing that I had, and little did I know, from that point he installed so much in my life from that.
Right.
And so I'm just grateful for God that I have this opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's amazing. God moves. We always say that God moves in mysterious ways. And so I guess that's a testament of how God can flow in our lives if we just be open to him.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that I also notice about, the way how our friend, or I guess between you and Rohan, you both developed such a friendship, like a bond. And it's amazing because both of you, your birthdays are
the same days.
It's the same day, the actual same day, but y'all are what?
Two different cultures.
No, not just two different cultures, but y'all are at the same date, but you're
kindred spirits.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I guess what I was trying to say is he doesn't want to tell y'all, but they're 10 years apart. Okay.
Yes.
He doesn't want to say that part.
That her husband is older.
No. No. But it's so interesting because I believe Rohan celebrated his 40th when you were celebrating your 50th, when we were neighbors. But okay, enough of that.
Can I say just to that?
Yes.
Real quick. And that's been, especially the last 2 years, has been the most amazing part, where I have intentionally just last year did not do anything or make plans for my birthday, for the expectation of waiting for my invitation
for Rohan's
birthday. And that's a monumental moment for me that I tell everybody about, that I'm always invited to help and to celebrate his birthday with
Yeah.
him. And I'm honored by that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Celebrating his birthday, celebrating your birthday.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome. Just, that's just how we started out, with our with the connection that we have with our family, both families. And so you're pretty much seeing the kids grow up too
Yes.
over the years. So that's awesome. Okay, so talk to us about. I know you were born in New Orleans, so talk to us about your culture, your, I guess, Black culture. As how you were growing up, how did that really influence who you are as an African American a man of God?
I think for me, and I had to do something last night. I was writing something, and it came to me about growing up and I'm very careful of words, and I love looking up words, but I use the word desolate. Growing up in a desolate neighborhood, which means there's nothing there.
Wow.
There's nothing there. But and I was sharing how fortunate I was to grow up in a neighborhood where it appeared to be desolate, and it appeared that nothing was there. But then I looked up the word desert, and desert is a paradise. And so I grew up in a neighborhood that was a paradise, but you had to be open to all the different plants, aspects of your environment.
Yes.
And I have this thing that I say, don't take the negative negatively.
Right.
Just because it appears to be negative don't mean it's a negative situation. So it forced me to look within to see what was in me versus what is in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And one of the things I found growing up, and I actually grew up in the ninth ward of New Orleans, which is one of the, but
tougher areas.
Tougher areas.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So growing up in the ninth ward, as I began to mature, I realized that what I didn't see in the neighborhood, the reason I didn't see it because I was it.
Wow.
And so that taught me growing up in New Orleans that the things that were missing were inside of me. So versus looking outside, blaming others for what was there, what was not there, I had to become the very thing that I didn't see.
Wow.
And
that is profound.
Yeah.
Really, it is.
I had to.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I found that it was a paradise. It just, I had to do the work. I had to learn who am I? And that was complicated because at 38 years old, I was depressed and because I had never been to jail. And when I tell that story, people like, are you crazy? No, I ain't crazy. I thought you had to go to jail to be successful. And
that's what your environment was
because
showing
that's
you?
what my environment has showed me and taught me. So I had adapted to my environment somewhat, but I thank God because I had adapted to it, but not in a way to where I made it a lifestyle.
Okay.
I had adapted to, it gave me vision. Again,
so it's like pushing you.
It pushed me because I didn't have certain things. It made me become more creative. We may not had toys, but we had sticks and we had gutters.
Right. Yes.
So we would break the sticks in pieces like matchsticks and put them in the gutter and race them like boats.
Right.
And it was a fertile place, but the only way it was not fertile, the only way it could not be fertile is if you were going to be limited in your thinking. Again, we grew up in a neighborhood too. My mom had a nursery and her nursery had all kind of people. It was very diverse. So her nursery was successful because it was diverse. So, and growing up like that, you had to learn how to deal with different people.
Wow. Yes.
And that was one of the best things that I think happened for me, that it opened me up to, and my dad used to tell me all the time, the only reason you have for being stupid, and that's a strong word,
Mm-hmm.
is because you choose to be.
That's interesting for me to hear you say that because, um, I can relate a little bit because I mentioned this before that, I spent like my teenage years in the Bronx, right? And so I mentioned this before that I could have chose what I saw, right? I had to walk by the drug dealers and, they were trying to recruit,
Mhm.
right? And so I could have made that choice to choose that particular lifestyle, what I was seeing, as opposed to what you said about being within,
Mhm.
like the real person who I am that I wasn't seeing, but it was in me. So that begs the question for me, is this more an intrinsic thing, like an intrinsic motivation within yourself? Because I felt like I was motivated to succeed, for success. I didn't want to choose that path because I didn't want to go to jail, like I didn't want to live a life of suffering. And, I saw it that way. So is it more so that intrinsic motivation that propelled you to choose your inner person as opposed to what you were seeing on the exterior?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with that. Again, I'm big on words.
Right.
Revelation.
Oh.
Having, and you mentioned that I was a visionary, I think.
Hmm. Yes.
And being a visionary is being able to see what the average person can't see in the natural.
Hmm.
Can you see what's really there in a spirit realm versus what's in a natural realm? So apparently we seen the truth. What we see in the natural is not real, and people argue that it is not real.
Hmm.
It's what you don't see that is real.
Hmm.
So it's, again, take the desert. It's a paradise, but it's 98% water. You just have to find it, right? But in that desert, you begin to have mirages. The lack of water make you see things that don't exist.
Hmm.
So you moving off of your vision, off of your sight, what is visible versus vision, what is on the inside of you.
Hmm.
So you start seeing stuff with your eyes that is not real, and you start walking towards it versus what's in your heart.
Hmm.
And what's in your heart, if you just keep moving forward, it has to come out.
So do you think success, um, well, ultimate success is because we are able to dig deep within?
Hmm.
So what does that mean for you with your experiences? Because I know that you were able to, of course, you're Dr. Darrell, so you were able to push through and and propel yourself towards the goal of being doctor. Not just that, but even pastoring. And I know that that you were able to experience more than one different Black culture while you were, even now, your ministry that you have now, you're interacting with all different types of people. So what is that like for you having these experiences? How are you able to relate to other people? And we talked about that earlier, well, before the broadcast, as far as the scripture you were talking about earlier with how they were united at the.
They were united spiritually. When you talk about the people of Babel,
Mhm.
as I studied it, I thought they were connected just through sound and movement, which is harmony. But harmony is not just sound and movement. Harmony is spirit as well.
Mhm.
These people were connected spiritually.
Mhm.
When I read that, and I thought about Gideon, and I began to study Gideon, and God told Gideon, he said, listen, tell all the people who are with you, who are afraid, to go home. And I say, but wait a minute, if they're not doing it in their strength, then why should they be eliminated? He said, because I'm not talking about a natural strength.
Mm-hmm.
He told him, he said, if they're not in the same spirit that you're operating in.
Mm.
And so, Erica, sometimes we deal with people who are family of the same race,
Mm-hmm.
but they operate out of a different spirit.
Yeah. Wow.
And so now we're not on one accord,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know?
So how do we get to the place where we're able to embrace those, someone that's not, or try to at least understand or try to help
So do I have to be
the
politically
bridge?
correct?
Yeah, no, go ahead. Say it as it is.
Stop lying to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I have to stop lying on you and tell myself the truth.
Okay, explain.
So many times we lie about, we don't want to, growing up in the neighborhood, like you said, you had to walk past the drug dealers, this and that. You had to make a choice every time you went by.
Mm-hmm.
That was your choice. That's your truth.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has an advantage over me. The only things I haven't accomplished is the things that I haven't set out to accomplish. There's nothing in my life, there's nothing in your life that you haven't accomplished, that you prepared yourself to overcome or to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what the obstacle were. You're Dr. Erica. You didn't get that just because you ain't had nothing else to do, or somebody came by and said, hey, you had to put in the work.
Yes.
There were obstacles, there were situations and circumstances. We shared tears. We
Yes.
go through depression and
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff.
Yes.
So if you made it, I could make it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got yours first, then what I really need to do is come and sit at your feet
Mm-hmm.
and glean for you and figure out and learn to ask questions.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you can't find it in your neighborhood, go to the next neighborhood.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
Come
Yes.
on. And the worst thing you could do is grow up like a light pole, straight up.
And never branch out.
Never branch out.
Wow.
Because they don't look like me.
Mm-hmm.
My mom had a
Or
nursery.
sound like me.
I sound like me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't do things like I do them.
Mm-hmm.
No, in the New Orleans culture, we deal with any and everybody. We just want your baby, come on over here, get you something
Right.
to eat,
Mm-hmm.
get you something to drink, this, that, and the other, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we deal with everybody. And again, the only excuse I have for not having is me.
Yeah. Yeah. So have you, like I said before, I know you've interacted with many different types of people over the years, especially being in ministry. But I wondered about this, to be able to have that heart to understand people, to be able to be open-minded, right? Because you really can't close your door in your church door, or even if you don't have a building per se, close that door on someone just because you don't understand their culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what type of heart do you have to be able to be open and willing to embrace others as they're coming to serve the Lord, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to put up a wall?
The biggest challenge with me with that was when I was going through the season of becoming a chaplain.
Mm-hmm.
Because people didn't see God like I seen him. And they wasn't willing to do what I did to see him.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to embrace their beliefs, their unbeliefs. I had to embrace everything they knew about and what they had accepted and show them the love of the Father. And I couldn't do that. And the funny thing, for 2.5 years, I cried, and I would get so angry with them because I'd be all right till I get there. And man, I just start crying in the middle of the class. And I'm like, God, and he was just breaking me. And he was showing me, you can't love people without the heart of the Father. So I had to be able to go into an atheist room and make him feel comfortable without offering him salvation, because that's going against his belief.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he asks for it, now I have the right to do that. But if he's not asking, I still have to make him comfortable as if he's a believer or not. So I had to get rid of all the things that I thought separated me from people.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because God is reaching to all of us, and he give all of us the opportunity to accept him, until we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
you have to have the heart of the Father.
And and who are we to shun someone else, and not show them that love, that love of Christ, because we feel like you are not, like you're not in my culture, so I'm going to shun you. And and that goes back to well, even classism.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even just because I know, in our blackness, right? We are diverse. We have many different aspects of black cultures going on. And so, classism is another aspect of that, because you have some, the haves and you have the have nots, right? And so sometimes, even in ministry, we will see some of the haves look at the have nots.
Mm-hmm.
And we say, sorry.
The devil is a lie.
You can sit over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you noticed any of that, like within your ministry, either in the past or even now, with what you're doing?
Again, I found the answer to everything is honesty, the truth. And it's the truth starts with you.
Yeah.
I have this little saying that I say whenever somebody say something negative about somebody. Well, they fornicate, they this and that. I tell them I steal paper clips. I do. I steal paper clips. And so, and some people, it take them a while to get it, but I steal paper clips. So what's am I better? I steal paper clips. I got a habit of stealing paper clips. You say I could be me. I steal paper clips. This person is a fornicator. What's the difference?
Right. They say sin is, the Bible says sin is sin, right?
That's it.
Right.
So I get the little bit of sin because I steal paper clips. No, you steal. So what is a paper clip?
Right.
So who am I, again, to pass judgment on people and say what's right and what's wrong? And we say we love God. You can't love God and not love people, whether they God's people or not. He never hated the people. He hated the sin.
Right.
Yeah.
And
you know what? My mom's nursery was successful because it was diverse. The average multi-billion-dollar company is successful because it's diverse. The kingdom of God is successful because it's diverse.
Yeah. And the world will be more successful if we knew how to be diverse and live together in harmony, right?
Yes.
So we talked about like unconscious bias, and that's one of the things that I was able to come in terms with for myself, because I realized that I had some unconscious biases. And it took me a minute, to even get to that place where I'm like, I really want to own up to it. And be like, you know what, Erica, you really had some unconscious biases. And, and there are many different, like I said before, Black cultures. And, and we have these thoughts of some of these cultures, but sometimes it's not because we know it to be true. Sometimes it's what was told to us, and then so we form these unconscious biases of different cultures. Like, for example, I was at a faculty meeting, and we were in the process of changing leadership. So the one of the leaders, she was leaving, and then another leader that was going to replace her is from New York. And so the leader that's leaving, she said, "Oh, the new leader is from New York." And maybe three-quarters of the people in the meeting were like, "Oh." I was like, "Really?" I'm thinking to myself,
Mhm.
"Really? Like, y'all have a problem with people being from New York?" And so, but I don't even think they realize that their whole demeanor and everything
Mhm.
was shifting and changing because they found out that this particular person is, this African American lady, she's from New York. But the whole, from the north to, the south, New Orleans,
Mhm.
Georgia, I mean, like, what's that all about with these unconscious biases that we have even amongst our own blackness towards our own, other black cultures? Like, what's that all about? Like, why we have these.
Confusion.
Hmm.
It's the spirit of Confucius. It's confusion. It's because I had to learn the things I'm learning the hard way,
Hmm.
um, through trial and error. And with my mom's nursery, my kids were the first grandkids that didn't attend her nursery.
Hmm.
And my family was upset about that. Why? Because I went and put them in a white nursery. Why would you do that? Because my
Hmm.
mom not qualified to teach them.
Hmm.
What do you mean?
Hmm.
She was only able to take them so far.
Hmm.
She was an excellent grandmother,
Hmm.
but you can't take them to the next
To the
level.
next level. Hmm.
Well, you can stick them in a black nursery. I don't want them in a black nursery. I want them in a white nursery. I want them to be able to function,
Yeah.
to be diverse. This
Hmm.
world is diverse.
Yeah.
I'm not against the black culture. I'm against failing,
Hmm.
you know?
Well, that's a strong statement.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a strong statement because then what makes it failing?
in the box mentality
Mm.
that I'm afraid. My son went to a school predominantly white.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the last 2 years of his education, he went to a all black school, and it sent him into shock
Mm-hmm.
because it was different.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we do or don't do things based on what the people are going to say versus what's best.
Okay.
I left New Orleans because they didn't care nothing about education. Georgia did at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And the Georgia education system was better than the education system in Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
My kids needed to be more educated than I was.
Okay.
Um, my son and my niece were the first two family members to graduate from college.
Mm-hmm.
With coming from a family of um, it was 12 of us. They're the first two that graduated from college,
Wow.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's maybe 8 or so
Mm-hmm.
that graduated from college because my mentality was different, right? But my mentality changed my nieces and nephews that were close to me
Mm-hmm.
because I thought different. They began to think different,
Right.
which caused my nieces and nephews to think different. When I grew up, they didn't push college. All they pushed, just finish high school, go get you a job.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What happened for me, the best thing happened for me is I started driving trucks at an early age. So
Mm-hmm.
I was able to deal with other people and learn about different cultures and different areas, environments, and this and that. And sometimes it's, I get in trouble for this one. Sometimes black people are the most racist, the most complaining, whining. It got to be my way people there is.
Hmm. Why you say that?
Because they are.
Excuse me.
I can tell a white joke and nobody will say anything. If a white man tell a black joke, they want him off the air. They want his head. But you tell the same joke about your people.
Mm.
I had a conversation with some people, so they was talking about the rebel flag. I don't care about the rebel flag. Let them fly it if that's what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, no. What you miss is you got a problem with them flying a rebel flag and burning the cross. But you don't have a problem with the brothers that's toting pistols in the neighborhood. That the grandparents can't come through the neighborhood because he got a pistol. What's the difference?
The difference is the people, the who is doing it. That's the difference.
Mm-hmm. But does it make it right? I steal paper clips.
It doesn't make it right. So,
And I'm not saying it's right.
right.
I'm saying how we so busy
The
finger
perspectives.
pointing
Mhm.
the perspective.
Mhm.
Are finger pointing that we blaming so many people for what we're doing. If I sit here and talk negative, then the podcast don't be successful. We already know what the problem is. What is the solution?
Right.
When we go to God, he never tells us the problem. He tells us the solution.
Mhm.
And then he said, okay, now you deal with it.
All right. Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know?
Yes. Because the more we become aware, right? And that's the point of the podcast, right? We're creating awareness of these different cultural experiences. Like Dr. Darrell's experiences are his. It's unique, right? And so it's so interesting just listening to your experiences and
Mm-hmm.
your point of view, your perspectives, you know, regarding our Black cultures. So that's really interesting to me. So we were watching Super Bowl, right? And so the halftime act came on, and we, you know, both Rohan and I, we don't really know rap.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you know, that's not really our thing. So, you know, but I'm very open minded, right? So I'm like, okay, let me see what's going on. Let me, you know, hear what's really going on. So I think immediately for him it was kind of like a shutdown because he had no idea. He just wasn't understanding it.
I
Right?
didn't understand it.
Yeah, I wasn't understanding it either, but I was more open initially. So he was just like, you know, kind of losing interest. And I said, well, you know, babe, give it your attention. You know, I know you're not understanding it, but just kind of listen, just kind of give it like an open mind. Because I said, well, what if it was, you know, a reggae artist performing? Wouldn't you want other people from other cultures to give that person their undivided attention to really listen to it and appreciate that culture? So, you know, then we both just sat there and we watched it, not knowing a word, didn't understand anything, but you know, just was able to appreciate the fact that somebody else out there was having a great time listening to it, you know, and that's just a different Black culture. And so we just had to kind of open up to that. And even though it wasn't our thing, but you're saying that you didn't understand it either?
I didn't have a clue. And somebody had to break it down. And I said, well, okay. And I didn't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to somebody else try to explain it. And that's that culture, that's that age bracket.
Mm-hmm.
I got a better understanding about it now. He feels the same way you and I do. He just expressed it in a way that the people his age can understand it.
Okay.
You said something key about you guys watching the Super Bowl, watching the how you explained to him to look, let's just sit here and let's just give him some time.
Mm-hmm.
That was the foundation for Rohan and I relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That we gave one another time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes it becomes dangerous because we've been taught men shouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Certain things shouldn't be between two men, but that's where you miss it.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a time I didn't call this brother and he wouldn't pray for me.
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear about that.
Yeah.
That's a man, girl thing, woman thing, you know. And this brother would pray for me for all sincerity. And, you know, I explained that story once before. Mm-hmm. But it taught me something that this brother don't discriminate at all. Mm-hmm. So where I was in a box somewhat, it pulled me out of a box and started seeing him different and are the cultures different, it gave me an even greater perspective
Yes.
on how my life can be better if I embrace.
Yes. Stronger together.
Exactly.
Stronger together. And that's the main point of having these discussions, is that that's really to the point, is that we are stronger together, and we can't allow these little differences amongst us, like an accent or where you were born. We can't help where we were born. Like I didn't have the choice of saying I wanted to be born here or there, or or wherever. So because we couldn't help where we were born, right, we came in the world, right? But if we allow ourselves to be open and willing to embrace others, like you said, that will really allow God to use whomever He wants to use to bless us.
Yeah.
But if we put up that barrier and that boundary, we could miss a blessing.
Exactly.
We could miss a blessing, and that sounds like that's what you were saying a minute ago, that you could have missed that blessing in your life if you weren't open to having that neighbor who's from the island.
Exactly. And I never had a relationship with my brothers, my biological brothers, like I have with him. There's a white guy that I'm real close to. And when I talk about him, people think I'm talking about a black guy until I say, but he's white. And he's raised several black kids. And I have so much love and respect for this brother, because he wants the same things in life that I want. We want to raise our kids. We want to be successful in the things of God.
Right.
So what give me the right to X him out?
Right. So what does community healing look like? If we were to start this journey, and I hope we are starting this journey of healing, not only do we need to heal individually, but as a community, what would that look like? What do you think that would look like?
This.
The conversation?
Starting
with a conversation?
It start with a conversation. The worst thing, the only thing worse than being sick is not knowing it. And so I think God is raising up platforms like this so that the people can be aware, that they can tap into and say, wow, you know what? That's interesting. Let me tap into that again. And having that consistency. When Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, he spoke to the ministers. He said, now y'all loose him and let him go.
Yeah.
And Erica, I'm a strong believer that we're not trying to get free. We're trying to get a free mentality.
Yeah.
Because we're already free.
Yes. Yes.
We just don't have the mentality of freedom. When you accept that nobody can stop you, then you don't have time to worry about the next person. And you're only hated by people of less.
That's interesting. Yeah. So what would be some of your final thoughts to the audience out there in regards to, like I said before, this is a platform where we have, diverse cultural experiences that are shared and different perspectives based on your own experience. But being that we have these conversations that are going now, and we have people who are now listening, we do have, some people who are listening. And so we have listeners out there who, they're intrigued, right? They want to know a little bit more about other cultures and how they can really start uniting, start opening up, peeling a little bit of those layers off so that they can start opening up to other cultures and embracing others. What advice or what, can you give to the audience out there who are listening right now to this podcast and say, you know what, you're making me think?
That's my purpose.
Yeah.
I'm great at that. You could beat me at anything in this world except one thing, and that's being me.
Yeah.
I do me like I've been trained to do me. I don't have to be you. I just have to be me. The Bible says one planet, one water it, God give the increase.
Right.
Let's keep planting and watering and let God give the increase. Let him bring the change. how do I believe in prayer, and here's why I believe in prayer. Again, when I met your husband, it was in one of the tough times of my life. I knew about prayer. I prayed for people. I seen things happen for people and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
Erica, I didn't believe it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
If you asked me to pray, I would pray until something happened.
Mm-hmm.
When it came to me, I didn't have it in me, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is how things is changing through prayer. When I met your husband and that brother would pray for me, my life began to change because he was praying. And he was praying. He wouldn't ask me what you want me to pray for.
Mm-hmm.
I never had to explain to him what I needed. I never even asked him to pray for me. He would always come and pray for me. And if you remember, he would get on my nerves sometimes because I just wanted to just die in my sorrows. But yet he would come and he would pray, and prayer started changing my life. And I think God is raising up platforms. There are people like yourself who are pastoring. When we hear that word pastoring, we think we're going to be in a church or we're going to be ordained. Not necessarily. Even operating in an apostleship, changing the lives and changing the vocabulary of the people.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe God is raising up platforms like this where people are hearing things and their lives are changing. And once you bring about that change, then they're going to get that hunger for God.
Mm-hmm.
But these kind of platforms, your platform, you have to continue to do what you do. Let God do the rest.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because, of course, being a vessel for God to use is so important. And I always say this: we just never know. We really don't know what God's up to, right? Um, we can be obedient and listen to His voice, take those steps, take the baby steps to move forward in what we feel in our heart and in our that He's asking us to do. And so this is one of those things that I wouldn't have thought that I would be doing this, right? This is probably one of the last things that I would want to do. Speaking to people and putting myself out there like this is really not one of the things that was on my to-do list. But here I am. I'm doing it, out of obedience, because I strongly believe that we are stronger together. And in order for us to be stronger together, we have to create that unity and tear down those walls that divide us, whether it's consciously or or unconsciously. Tear those down.
And you know what? When you say that,
Mm-hmm.
people don't fear or don't dislike you. They dislike what you represent because you, and I'm speaking in general,
Mm-hmm.
you remind me of the one that hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
So they see the spirit of familiarity.
Mm-hmm.
So you take a usher's uniform, a clergy collar,
Mm-hmm.
and you put him in a neighborhood and they're going to talk about him as soon as they see him. They don't even know him. You take a policeman and put him in a neighborhood, they're going to talk about him. They don't even know him.
Mm-hmm.
They see that as being the thing that hurt me, the thing that done me wrong. So it's taking people like us who sometimes people say, well, you don't look like a pastor. I said, well, what does that look like?
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know? And it's the thing that I got to represent God through my actions and through my words.
Mm-hmm.
And in the midst of that, when somebody sees something familiar, when they see, and this is why when I say about the church, doing church and not God,
Mm-hmm.
when you start having the church behavior,
Mm-hmm.
then people get upset.
Yeah.
So you have to know how to separate the religion from the relationship.
Right.
Religion is man seeking to control the things of God. Relationship is I'm going to seek God
Mm-hmm.
for my life.
Right.
And when God deal with my life, it should impact your life.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like that. making sure that we are intentional. And that's my
Yes.
word. Yeah, I love that word, intentional. Make sure that we're intentional about our acts and our deeds, um, towards others. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's so important. Thank you so much for
Thank you
coming
for having me.
today and sharing your story with us. Um, Clearly, you have such a vast experience with just your interactions with others over the years. And so I thank you so much for articulating all of those experiences in such an interesting way that
Mm.
causes us evoke this thinking in us to think, let me look at that a little bit more. So thank you so much for that. So Dr. Darrell, how can someone reach out to you if they have questions or would like to follow you?
I'm
Oh,
not your average pastor. I'm Pastor Dr. Darrell Jordan of Jordan Lifelines Ministries. I'll have to bring you the card. I don't keep up with certain things.
mhm.
My goal is just to do what God called me to do,
Yeah.
and I stay away from some other things. And that's where I'm at in this season. I'm very humble about that. Can I leave you with this?
Mhm.
And I say this to anybody that's listening. And we both are educated, and I thank and I'm grateful to God for that. I thank God, and I'm grateful for it. If if a person is saying I spoke with a lot of wisdom,
Mhm.
I want to let them know it wasn't the education.
Mhm.
It was being involved in stupidity and asking God to get me out.
Mm. Wow. Wow. That is great.
Being stupid. And again, I'm very careful of words, but
Mhm.
you got to use certain words.
Mhm.
Being so ignorant, being so unintentional, being so out out the box, being so whatever I want it to be,
Mhm.
but having enough sense to call on God.
Mm.
And it's the wisdom of God. It has nothing to do with me.
Wow.
And that's why I don't keep up with certain things. But
Mhm.
you know,
Let's say the
thank you
ministry
so
again.
much. Huh?
Say the ministry again.
It's
And
Jordan Lifelines Ministry.
okay.
And I'm Dr. Darrell K. Jordan. And I'm on Facebook. We're on Facebook.
Well, thank you again.
Thank
We
you.
do really appreciate it. And of course, as we know, we are stronger together.
Yes.
We're stronger together.